It's up to you whether you want to start or whether we both try and start at the same time.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How you doing? God, you actually made me jump. Even though you're right there, you actually made me.
Uncomfortable corner.
Don't. Oh God. So yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the inner sanctum of John Russell's office. Mike, show your shield. Yeah. And there's Darth Vader as well. Yeah, so hello everyone, how you doing? This is the Sprint Zero podcast, but we are also now doing video. So you get to see our beautiful faces.
Nothing will go wrong with this.
No, nothing will go wrong. Yeah, on this week's episode, we have Howdang Rashid. Howdang's an up-and-coming Power Platform creator. He has done loads of courses on LinkedIn, which he's absolutely smashing it. Yeah, it was a really good chat, wasn't it, Mike?
It was, yeah, no, fantastic, and can't wait for everybody to have a listen. But before we get started with the episode, here's a message from our podcast sponsor.
Hey, how you doing? Have you heard about the Architects Accelerator course? If not, you definitely should check it out. Let me tell you some more about it. So the Architects Accelerator course is a course that's run by Sean Astrahan. He's based in the US. He's a lovely fellow, really. And yeah, it's basically bridging that gap for solution architects and wannabe solution architects who maybe need to have a bit more of some advanced topics to talk about and advanced things to look into. One of the best bits about the course is how much effort Sean and his team have put into creating a community of vibe around it. He's got lots of integrations working, and you can work out when the next sessions are, have a look at people's intros, discuss technical topics and help out. It's a really, really good community. I'm John Russell from the Sprint Zero podcast, and just wanted to say thank you to Sean and for his continued sponsorship. If you want to find out more about the Accelerator course, please have a look at the link in the episode description.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the almost award-winning Sprint Zero podcast. My name is John Russell, and I'm here in Technicolor with my co-partner crab in crime, Mike Gowland. Hello Mike, how are you?
Hey John, it's good to see you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you before.
No.
On Sprint Zero.
Wow.
The first time.
It's in colour, I can touch things. People can see our shirts.
I like your Hawaiian shirt, Mike.
I like your Hawaiian shirt.
This is going to be a thing, isn't it? We're going to have to wear Hawaiian.
It's always been a thing.
Every time. Oh, well, yes, but especially now that we're on video.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so...
And make sure your room's tidy as well.
Yeah, I've made the bed. I've got the iron out. So get ready for an inspiring guest today. Today we're joined by Howdang Rashid, a Power Platform wizard who's passionate about helping businesses unlock its full potential. From working at a global giant Mondelez to innovative startups, Howdang has transformed how companies use technology, building custom solutions that drive real change. Now at Thrive Tribe, he's leading the charge in AI integration, automating processes and tackling challenges with Dataverse and AI Builder. When he's not building, he's teaching through his blog series and online courses. And I believe his LinkedIn course has recently just got 1,000 views, which is pretty sweet. And yeah, welcome to the show, Howdang. How are you? You okay?
Thank you, John. It's an absolute pleasure. Must I say, it is amazing to be your debut video episode, I should say. So yeah, it's an absolute honor.
Oh, nice. Thanks, man. Cheers.
So, hi, Howdang. Welcome to the podcast. Howdang, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey into Power Platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all kind of started at Mondelez, as John kind of alluded to, where I had no idea what the Power Platform was. I had no idea how corporations even interacted with each other. And Mondelez being such a large kind of global organization, they had a lot of manual processes, a lot of SharePoint, a lot of legacy systems that they were using. So I went in there as an intern, basically doing my internship, and discovered the Power Platform after trying to resolve some of the manual processes they had. And then from that point, I kind of, it was a really basic solution. It was kind of just Power Apps, Power Automate, SharePoint. I feel like that's kind of where everyone gets started. That's kind of the most common use case. And then from that point, I saw other parts kind of clicking. So I realized kind of Power Apps, links with Power Automate, then you could kind of get it all linking with Power BI, and it all just made sense for me. So I was like, all right, it's a bit of a risk because I'm not sure what the career kind of trajectory is. I was still a student. Um, but then I obviously, finished that internship and was fortunate enough to find a contracting kind of opportunity at a startup where I kind of grew in my Power Platform skills. And here I am with an amazing offer to speak with you guys, which is awesome.
Nice. So yeah, we me and Mike have been talking about like who we're trying to reach really with Sprint Zero,
Mhm.
and I think it's quite good. It's quite pertinent that you're the first person, because I think there are some people who come into this space who are career switchers or graduates basically, who
Mm.
might not really understand the landscape of Power Platform and how
Mm.
big it is and the community.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a bit of a game changer for you? Because I know you're big in the community. You're everywhere really. Do you think that was a game changer for you? For you, kind of cementing the fact that you realised that Power Platform was for you.
It's a really good question. Absolutely. 100%. I think the community for me was huge. Coming into the community, I think it unlocks so much opportunity. And nowadays, especially, I'm a huge advocate for people just getting themselves out there. Like, if you've got an idea, if you've got a post, if you've got something you want to share, just put it out there. Like, I think people get really nervous about kind of making content and, getting their faces on camera or writing a blog post like, oh, how are people going to perceive it? I just tell those people, hey, to be very blunt, no one cares. Like either you're giving them value or they skip over it because you're not giving them value and
Yeah,
then they forget about it.
Yeah.
And those are like the two worst case scenarios. So yeah,
nice,
absolutely. I'm a
nice.
huge advocate.
And what about, so with the community itself? If someone was coming into it from a graduate point of view,
Mm,
they're going into a kind of larger organisation, part of their graduate program. They've heard of the Power Platform. They know that's where they want to go. How
mm.
would you kind of entice them or show them where to go when it comes to the community?
That's a great question. Start with LinkedIn. Like, definitely. I think with the Power Platform specifically, like with your tech communities, they're kind of all distinguished somewhere. But with the Power Platform, I think all of the community work is pretty much going on LinkedIn. At least that's where the more centralized places. So I'd say if you're going towards the community direction, start posting on LinkedIn. It's really cool to have your own website, and I've got my own, and I'm sure you guys have your own as well, which is awesome. But I think if you start creating content on LinkedIn, that's a really good place to start.
Nice,
That
nice.
Yeah,
reminds me, John, we need to get the Sprint Zero website live. We've only been
Yeah,
going for nine
come on,
months.
one thing at a time. Jeez.
one
Yeah.
thing at a time.
So you mentioned educating more people on extending the Power Platform and not taking technology at face value.
Mhm.
What are some common misconceptions you've seen, and how can we encourage deeper learning in this space?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny because I kind of started everything within sorry, someone just came in and said bye. I kind of started everything within the Power Platform space, really cementing myself at university and using kind of generative AI because that's when it all kind of came out, right? ChatGPT kind of all started when I was at university. As a university student, ChatGPT was an absolute game changer, as I'm sure you can imagine. Like putting
Yeah.
your kind of details in your dissertation and stuff, and using generative AI to give you ideas and be a bit more creative for you, was an absolute game changer. And I apply that to my career every single day. So, John, me and you've had a bit of a back and forth on kind of the balance of generative AI and if it's kind of cheating or not. But I think
Yeah,
technology, as people, has just made us better over time. And I think generative AI is just one of those things. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
people were
Uh,
struggling to accept the search engine,
and I
for
think,
example.
uh, and I think all technology is like that, right? I reckon if you
Mm,
go back to God knows when, yeah, I don't know when the wheel was created, but before the wheel and after the wheel, the people with the wheel probably thought, "Well, I'm going much faster than these people. Like,
absolutely.
I've
I'm
got
cheating walking, right?
yes, yeah." So yeah, that was an interesting conversation me and you have had, Howden, about like, and I still struggle with it as to whether
Yeah.
or not I'm cheating.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's definitely one of those things. And the wheel is an amazing example. One definitely not from this century, but it is an incredible example. I'm sure they thought they were cheating
Yeah.
walking. But yeah, I always like to think of the search engine. Like before the search engine came out, people were like reaching out and getting books. like
Yep.
to find out different things. And how long would that have taken? And now we've got Google and all of these awesome things, and we can get answers in a second. So I think people should utilize the technology they have. And with what I do kind of sharing the code is like, hey, I've got this line of code. It's going to help you achieve what you want to do. You don't need to know the whole JavaScript framework back to front and have 20 years of experience to implement something very simple. And I feel like people might have that misconception more than they don't.
Yeah, and I think like that can be a barrier to entry, can't it? If you want to learn that like massive hill you've got to climb, especially if you're talking about things like JavaScript, right? That's like that. Yeah, that's an entire world you would have to learn, but you don't have to learn it all. You don't need to know everything. You just need some foundational knowledge, and then you can go from there. And
Absolutely.
I guess what we've just been talking about kind of falls into my question is with tools like ChatGPT and Copilot, GitHub Copilot, helping to automate tasks. How do you personally strike a balance between using these tools for efficiency while also making sure you're thinking critically?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I feel like with generative AI, especially, you know, its answer, it's only going to be as good as your prompt, right? So I feel like when you're thinking critically to find kind of something that you want it to do for you, let's take writing code for example. If you're just saying write me this line of code and it writes it for you and you make no effort to understand what the code is doing, if that code one day breaks or another developer goes in there and alters it, you're going to have no idea how to fix it. Now you can make the
Yeah,
argument you can just put it back into ChatGPT, which is a fair argument to have. But I think having that basic understanding of what it's actually generating, even if you don't understand it all, just having an idea
yeah,
of, oh, this is where it's doing this, I think is an amazing kind of step forward in critically thinking and striking that balance in between.
definitely. And I think
Yeah.
that sort of like balances there between being a button presser
Yeah.
and just using the generative AI to actually be the expert and leveraging the tool to do
Yeah.
what you need it to do.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
We touched in the intro about your LinkedIn course,
Yeah.
and I know obviously you're growing as a Power Platform content creator. Um, could you give us some steps on how you took yourself on that journey into becoming that content creator, and tell us a bit more about the course as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it all kind of started for me writing. I knew I always liked to write, so I think blogging for me was very attractive. I tried to find kind of a space, like I read a book, and it was basically talking about finding kind of your genius zone, right? Something that people aren't doing so much, because finding something people aren't doing at all is difficult, and I feel like that only comes with experience and as new things are added to the Power Platform and any tech space in general, but just finding a space which maybe people aren't occupying so much. So when I came into the Power Platform, I kind of realized people were kind of coming from non-traditional software background, so non-coding background, and basically things like that. And kind of with my content, I just kind of want to demystify that process. So I definitely say the first step is trying to find your kind of niche. Where are you going to be making content specifically, and what area is that going to be? Second step is like make a process, I'd say, like find a way to be consistent and accountable. It's very easy to say, oh, I want to start making content on LinkedIn. You post something, and then a month later, you don't post anything for the past 4 weeks, and before you know it, it's been 1 year since you posted anything. So make yourself accountable, and I call it spinning the wheel. So being consistent. This isn't my idea, but every time you basically release some content, you're essentially spinning that wheel, giving yourself a better chance of being recognized. So just keep spinning that wheel, keep essentially publishing content that's useful, not just content for the sake of publishing it, but
Yeah,
content that's actually useful or that you believe is useful, and
Yeah.
share it and see how it goes. And if it gets 0 likes, which some of my stuff has, if it gets 2 likes or if it gets 200 likes, you will start seeing that progressive change.
so Howden, have you listened to the podcast before?
I have, yes, I have,
You have. So you know we have this regular section called Uncomfortable Corner.
yes.
Get
This is
in.
awesome.
Mike.
5 minutes before we
Mike.
go live for our debut video
I
episode,
love,
creating
I
a
love
PowerPoint.
I love how blue that is. That's
I
just
know,
so
right?
amazing, on brand.
So on brand.
Yeah.
So,
That's
when was the last time you felt uncomfortable, whether it was in or out of work? Explain how you felt and how did you manage to get through it?
that's a great question. I definitely say in one of my companies, I won't say what, but there was a lot of manual processing I had to do, a lot of data crunching, a lot of Excel, um,
Yeah.
and painstakingly, some of that analysis would take days. Like sometimes it would take 3 days of just crunching Excel numbers. Um, I definitely say it made me uncomfortable in the sense of I was frustrated because I felt like mm, my skills could have been used somewhere else. And
Hmm.
I feel like anyone could basically do what I was doing. Um, and it was quite difficult to kind of get through that for the first few months because it was a monthly kind of process. I had to dedicate 3 days to doing this kind of manual data entry. Um, I think what I learned from it and kind of how I grew out of it is looking for opportunities to make it faster. Like I always say, the best engineers are the lazy ones, and they're the ones that are always trying to make things better for themselves. And
Yeah.
that's definitely kind of an approach I took to that. So I was always looking for ways to kind of automate that process, which is why I kind of fell in love with the Power Platform in general, to be honest, because um, you can automate that boring stuff, and I don't want people to have to go through those feelings that I was going through when I was kind of crunching those numbers. And every single month I kind of set a timer for myself and see how long it would take me. And every month I could see that timer getting shorter and shorter to a point where it took me from 3 days to 1 day. And that was all using kind
Nice.
of the Power Automate process. And then, of course, macros on Excel and kind of learning that. So I'd say if you're doing anything manual, anything that's frustrating you in your work, like day-to-day processing, try and find a way to make that better and faster and try and learn from it. Take that as a learning experience because it's really hard to kind of step out of that. So yeah, I definitely say try and kind of reverse it so you're learning stuff for yourself.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Automate your timesheets now.
Automate your timesheets. Uh,
So that's awesome because I went through a similar journey when at a place I worked at previously. There was a lot of manual processes, and
Mm,
I really wanted the change to happen, and I really
mm,
wanted the organisation I worked at to have a sort of like a data driven automate first
yeah.
sort of mindset.
Mm,
Like we didn't need to do a thing in a manually written out Excel file and then email it to somebody. Actually, we could like automate that part of it and make it better and make it less prone to error and everything like that. But
mm,
when you're in that situation, when you're the engineer, whether you're lazy or not, you automate things yourself, and that helps you and that saves
mm.
you time. But when you want the organization to adopt that as an insider, how do you think you go about that?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I feel like people in general and organizations as a result, we don't like change. Even if something's taking much longer than it used to, we're used to that process. So I definitely say focus on the benefits and focus on what it's giving them.
Yeah,
And definitely see if you can get approval before you start building something that's going to take ages of your time. Because, you might find that you're thinking they're having these problems, but then you actually go and speak to them and they're having different problems, and then you're going to have to go back and spend a bunch more time redoing what you've already done. So I definitely say
yeah,
have a clear idea of what the problems are, um, write them down for yourself, and definitely go and speak to the people who are struggling with that. So if it's your team, for example, and you're all kind of doing this manual processing, then that's awesome because now you've got basically a direct link to the people who are having that problem, and you yourself have experienced that problem, so you can just go and
mm,
build what you think you need. But I definitely say if you're taking it to people in the higher ups and you want to get this solution basically approved, just show them the benefits, show them how I've crunched the numbers and this is how it's looking, and I think
yeah.
it will give us a big help. So yeah, I definitely say numbers talk. So go with the numbers.
So what you're saying is you use data to tell a story,
100%.
and
Yeah,
that helps you. That helps you to sell that into the organization that actually this is something not a nice to have, but actually
mm,
something they need, and there's a
mhm.
clear benefit. And that benefit normally in the world of business has to be a financial benefit, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If you talk
Yeah,
about money or time, time is therefore saving money. It all ends up being money. At the end of the day,
yeah,
it all ends up being money. And I've been in presentations and, speaking through things and clicking through the slides and seeing people uninterested. But as soon as we start talking money, we start talking time, they start seeing that data. I see their lights, their eyes light up basically, and
yeah.
it's night and day. So yeah, 100%. Tell a story with data. It can be really powerful. That would be my advice.
yeah. So what are you up to at the moment, Howdang? Can you share anything that you're working on at the moment, or any future plans for any more courses, or
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've recently started this new kind of endeavor, we'll call it, something called Power Academy. Um, when I started in the Power Platform, and please tell me if you guys felt the same.
Oh my goodness.
Is everything okay?
No, yeah.
What
What
happened?
happened there?
So I think John's put a message in the chat on Riverside, and
Yeah.
I went to click chat, and for some reason I accidentally clicked the mute button on you,
Nice.
Howden.
Right. So let's try
I
again.
think
Go
let's
again,
just go
Howdang. Sorry.
again.
Yeah.
That
Awesome.
was my bad.
That's
Sorry.
okay. No, 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 no worries. I mean, in the spirit of Sprint Zero, it's only right to meet the guest.
No, we've never muted a guest before.
You're the
How
first.
dare you?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Brilliant.
Anyway, yeah, like I was saying, please tell me if you guys share this similar experience. But when I started on the Power Platform, it was hard for me to find a roadmap and actually understand if it was kind of the right career path or if it was a career path at all to go on. I think now with
Hmm.
the Copilot stuff, it's become much more commercialized and people are really recognizing it. But beforehand, it was a bit difficult to kind of see that. So I'm testing out an idea called Power Academy, where essentially I want to take people and give them that kind of roadmap so they can kind of understand where they have to go. There's already a ton of amazing resources out there. And my idea of this is basically collating all of these resources and giving some live mentorship to kind of help people start their journeys in the Power Platform,
Yeah.
get in their first job, and hopefully, as a result, start creating content, start creating value, and essentially create a cycle of Power Platform developers coming in, creating content, becoming MVPs, and just producing endless value. So
Hmm.
hopefully it'll be a win-win for everyone. That's kind of the goal for it, but it's kind of an idea of mine. And yeah, I'll definitely keep active on LinkedIn to see what I can share about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Definitely.
there is. I think there is that niche is definitely not there at the moment. Well, it is
Mm,
there, but it's definitely a need that needs to be addressed for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mm,
I mean, that's
So when
really
I
good.
got into Power Platform, I had no idea that there could be a career path because I viewed at the time the entire Power Platform stack like a tool as if it was Excel.
yeah.
And actually, it wasn't really something you make a career out of. It was a tool for your job,
Mm,
and that
Hmm.
you could use it however you see fit. A bit like an empty spreadsheet in a way. Like you're not. It wasn't that you were going to build an application for another business or like build something that you can sell on or anything like that. It was more like, okay, this is what you could use to help you in your job and automate tasks for yourself. So I guess it wasn't really, unless I was just looking in the wrong places, which I definitely was, because when I then looked to see actually can I make a career out of this, there was like a plethora of jobs I could go for.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that initial leap into it, because a lot of us find Power Platform accidentally.
Mm,
We go through the Office apps and go, oh, what the hell is that Power Apps thing, and click on it, and then we get lost, and then that's it.
yeah.
We end up in the, or, eventually we can end up in a career or become experts, right? But it was definitely I definitely saw it as a tool and not a career path.
Mm,
So I think it absolutely is important that we get that front and center and show people that actually this is a tool you can make a career out of, and there's all sorts of avenues you can go down within the platform. You can specialize in certain parts. You can have a broader understanding of the entire platform, and then you can go beyond that as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, I 100% agree. And I think John's done the Architect Accelerator by Sean, which is absolutely awesome. And I feel like it gives you a lot of those practical kind of solution management techniques, taking those things from an
Yeah,
enterprise level. And I feel like those are things, when you start off, like you said, Mike, in the Power Platform and you kind of see Power Apps, like, oh, what is that? You know, you have no idea in that moment kind of the solutions people are building, packaging those up, there's application lifestyle management, there's all this thing that
yeah.
kind of goes into it, and a lot of thought that goes around it. So yeah, that's definitely an awesome course I definitely pick up. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of commercial stuff you can do with the Power Platform that I don't think is recognized when you're just starting off. But the community is
Yeah.
Hmm.
amazing, and I think the way that they're sharing the content is it's definitely one of the best communities, and that's not just saying that. I feel like everyone universally agrees. So yeah, it's been awesome to get engaged.
And I think also it's one of the few communities that I think have really kind of well defined kind of community. I want to say community courses. I don't really mean it like that, but they're done by people off their own back, not from a company perspective. And yeah, there's a lot. There's obviously Mark Smith's 90-day mentoring challenge, Sean's Architects Accelerator course. There's a lot of stuff from Neil Benson as well, Customer Academy. These are all people who are, making businesses really out of training people, but with a community feel to it, which really is quite impressive. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's interesting, just going back to what you were saying about when you look at Power Apps for the first time, you don't realise that there's this whole like plethora of things in the background, like ALM and solution management and all that. And I think traditionally in the back in the I don't like calling it, but pro code era, when you still are building applications with pro code and whatnot, all those functions were almost like they were jobs in themselves.
Yeah.
And do you think when you go into Power Platform and you see that, okay, you can do Power Apps Automate, you can do Copilot, you can do AI Builder, you've got Power Pages. Do you think people see that whole stack and think, oh my god, how am I going to do all of this?
Yeah. 100.
What do you reckon? Like, do you think people get overwhelmed when they see that, or what would you tell somebody who's looking at it thinking, how am I going to do all of this, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it depends on that person's objective. Like, if that person's trying to land a job or break into the Power Platform, my advice would be learn Dataverse, learn Power Apps, learn Power Automate. Like, those are your three. Those are the three that I think would give you the best chance of breaking into the industry. Now, once you are in the industry, you've got Power Pages, I think is a great example, because you could build a career on that alone, and there's organizations paying a lot of money. And honestly, the talent space is very slim for Power Pages developers. There's not many very good ones, at least that I've seen, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but it's definitely kind of a career of its own. So I definitely say don't get too overwhelmed. If you're trying to break into the space, like I said, Power Apps, Power Automate, Dataverse, start with those three, and then pick up some SharePoint as well, which would be amazing. And then once you're kind of in the industry, you'll have more of a chance to kind of experiment. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for doing what you kind of love in your work. So then outside of your work, when you're trying to grow in something, you're kind of, matching those things and growing it simultaneously. You know what I mean? So people have other hobbies outside of work, which is absolutely amazing. But imagine if, you love doing Power Platform and you do it outside of your work, you spend an hour or two a day on it, kind of outside learning it. And then in your work, you're also doing it. You're kind of growing those skills simultaneously. So you can dedicate a bit of time after your work to kind of, for example, I want to look at Power Pages. You're still indirectly affecting your career because you're learning a new skill within your space. So yeah, I'd highly recommend kind of, break into the industry, learning those three things. And then from there, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to grow into specifically.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that's all we got time for this week. Howdang, thank you so much for joining us today. You can find Howdang on LinkedIn and X, Twitter. What are we calling it now? Blue Sky?
Blue Sky. Yeah, I don't have a Twitter, unfortunately, but you can find me on LinkedIn. I should have a Twitter hopefully soon, but no Twitter yet. I'm terrible with social media.
Do you want the Twitter?
Probably not. John is shaking his head.
No.
Should I get Twitter or no?
I use it a little bit, but I definitely don't use it much. No.
Yeah.
And links to his website will also be in the show notes. Any other resources mentioned in the episode will be there too. Music today was provided by good friend Ken Like Fit. You can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. Any additional music used in this episode is credited there. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We'd also really appreciate it if you gave us a follow on LinkedIn. And if you're really enjoying the podcast, please I can't. Video's throwing me off. I need the show notes in front of me now if I'm reading the script. If you're really enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been John Russell. Say goodbye, John.
See ya.
Howdang Rashid. Say goodbye, Howdang.
Pleasure.
And I'm Mike Gowland, and we'll see you in the next episode. Love you, John.
Love you, Mike. Love you, Howdang.
Love you too.
Yeah!
Awesome. Oh, you guys are